Mirror, mirror on the wall, what is the most controversial Disney reboot of all? It's, of course, the new Snow White film, as you probably guessed. Disney recently unveiled the trailer for its live-action adaptation, which has gotten tons of negative attention for a while now. It all started with the 7 dwarves. Yes, of course, the dwarves, Sleepy, Doc, Grumpy, etc. They had paraded around the movie set. The dwarves at the time were both women and men of different ethnicities, with one dwarf actor. But a lot earlier, Peter Dinklage of Game of Thrones fame had actually attacked Disney for casting little people as dwarves, implying that I guess they shouldn't have the opportunities that he had had. So the solution to that, according to Disney, was to remove the actors and replace them with 7 CGI'd magical creatures that appear as the dwarves.
Who can forget the classic 1937 version where the Queen asks the question, "Who is the fairest of them all?" Not a very woke question in 2024, now is it? The people behind the film, including Greta Gerwig of Barbie fame, promise that this version will have modern twists. But it's not the storyline that has garnered press. Negative attention has zeroed in around the actress playing Snow White, Rachel Zegler, who has previously said she didn't like the original 1937 movie. Let's watch.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. Like, I'm being so serious.
And Israeli actress Gal Gadot plays the evil queen. Meanwhile, Zegler is known for her pro-Palestinian stance. Just this week, Zegler thanked her fans for all the views on the trailer, and then in a separate tweet wrote, quote, "And always remember, free Palestine." The movie won't hit theaters till March after being delayed by a year for a major overhaul. Disney cited the SAG-AFTRA strike for the major reason behind the delay, though some skeptics question whether Disney was buying themselves more time to reshoot over-woke scenes. So Robbie, I know you're a fantasy fan, so much so that we're talking about the horns, because a lot of people thought that Angelina Jolie's character...
I had to correct one of our producers that the Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty and the evil queen from Snow White are totally different characters.
And we learned yesterday we work with a Disney adult.
I would not describe myself as a, as a Disney adult.
Even though they own Star Wars now?
I watch a lot of Disney Plus, yes. I was watching Disney Plus last night. I was going through the Marvel movies yet again. So this Snow White movie just seems like a disaster on every front for a variety of reasons. One, the dwarf thing is, so this is like a wokeness thing, because Peter Dinklage, who is a dwarf actor, famous, probably the most famous dwarf actor from Game of Thrones, played Tyrion Lannister, said something like it was racist to cast dwarves in this role. And then a bunch of dwarf actors were like, well, thanks a lot, buddy. Just pull up the ladder behind you, why don't you? These are like roles we can get, and you're making it more difficult. So that didn't make a lot of sense. So then the Snow White production didn't quite know how to deal with this, and it ends up having, I think it's CGI dwarves in it. Then there's Rachel Zegler herself. So she said, like, I mean, it's fine to just not like the original film. I don't particularly like the original film either. It's fine. It's like historic. It's a very simple story, like incredibly simple, little saccharine, I would say, in terms of its sweetness. So fine to not like it, but she suggested it was just too old-fashioned because, of course, the heroine can't rescue herself. She has to get rescued by a prince. That kind of way, we can't have any stories where traditionally masculine figures rescue a damsel in distress. Okay, whatever. Maybe just make a new story then, if that's what is bothering you so much. And then there's the whole Israel-Palestine aspect of it, because she's, like many progressive young people, a strong supporter of the Palestinians, which is fine. But Gal Gadot, some left people want the whole movie boycotted because it has Gal Gadot in it, and Gal Gadot is Israeli and is very supportive of Israel. I think, didn't she serve in the IDF at some point, I believe? So there's that whole dynamic to it.
I think they should Spaceballs the whole thing and do an anti-woke version where little people play Snow White and the Queen and all of the characters, and then the dwarves are played by very tall people. I think that would be a very smart move, PR-wise. Whoever wants to make it, they can't call it space.
Sometimes
something else.
Sometimes the dwarves are just played by. I was thinking of, so there was that Snow White and the Huntsman the Winter War movies that are in the Snow White cinematic universe, in which I believe the dwarves there are just played by actors who are not themselves dwarves. Like Bob Hoskins is in it, and the guy from Shaun of the Dead. And then in Once Upon a Time, the show that was on ABC for like a million seasons, which I watched some of it, not all of it. Some of it was good, some of it was quite bad. They were again played by, I believe, normal-sized people. So this is a problem you can get around.
Yeah, I think that the original movie is kind of, I don't want to say woke because it's not the modern.
It's just a little too simple.
Colloquial
it's
word.
A little too simple.
I think the message of like, it is true in our society, mostly because we've lived in a patriarchal society and Western culture is patriarchal.
Oh boy.
Robbie's already smirking.
Oh boy.
So because it's a thing that women aging makes them less attractive to men. There are many studies that show men typically find women like under the age of 23 most attractive, whereas women, it usually carries in tandem with their age.
Well, everyone still finds Gal Gadot perfectly attractive. She's like the most beautiful woman on the planet, and she's the evil queen who's being jealous and replaced.
If I said that on Twitter, there would be people in the comments saying she's too old and geriatric and blah,
really?
blah. This is the world we live in. It's very sad.
I don't think so.
And so it is true that like older women have, if they're not like people very in touch with their emotions and very healed, they will get jealous of younger women simply because of their good looks, right? And their youth. And so I think, Snow White in some ways is a story about that, a cautionary tale for both older and younger women that we should be supportive of each other and sort of not believe in this thing.
Oh, okay.
And so I see the original story as kind of feminist in that way.
I like that take. That's a take I can handle.
Yeah, and she falls in love. Yes, it's a prince. It could have been a princess. That's fine too. But for some people, it's a prince, and that makes her feel better about the whole thing. It saves her. She's like, oh, it doesn't matter what this evil old lady thinks. That's nice. It's a good message.
Well, obviously, the very memorable part of the movie, right, is the transformation that the queen undergoes to become, because she's going to go poison Snow White with the apple, and she transforms herself into this hunched, terrifying, hooded, Emperor Palpatine type figure to cite another Disney property, and then goes to the
attack on my life has left me maimed.
Yes, we will reorganize the first galactic empire. So great. And then she poisons Snow White, and then Snow White also goes to sleep. I see why people get it confused with Sleeping Beauty, because it also has too many of these movies these stories had a girl falls asleep. Sort of hook to them.
It's honestly really nice, Robbie, to have representation in media as a sleepy girl.
Yeah. You identify with the tired, the bored. Sleeping Beauty is a better movie because the villain Maleficent, who is not a queen, she's an enchantress, turns into a dragon, which is just cooler. And she's scarier, and there's something more compelling about her, I think. I would like Angelina Jolie did a fine job with that. I would also like to see. I think Gal Gadot could have handled that role quite well. I love Gal Gadot. I think she's great in everything. I loved Wonder Woman. The second movie was terrible. The second one was absolutely one of the worst movies I've ever seen. But the first one was great. And she was in an adaptation of Death on the Nile, which is my favorite or second favorite Agatha Christie story that was very good. She's terrific.
I appreciate the fantasy knowledge you bring to this. However, the standard for women is too high that instead of turning into an old woman, we have to now become a dragon in order to be accepted.
To win my affection, you have to become a dragon. We want dragons.
I'll work on it.
All right, more Rising right after this.